Thank you. Thank you for the beautiful song. Even though today is the day that Joan was found 40 years ago, it just brings out that joy, the joy that she had, and the joy that can never be squashed. So thank you, Tom, and Dave, and Pat, and Joe, and Joe. The song is beautiful, and I could see this song, you know, with the spirit going places. It's not going to just stay here in Hillsdale. So thank you. And now we're going to be starting. You know, it's amazing that it's still light. It's still light. That's great. So tonight we have,
we better call all the speakers to come up to the seats.
okay, 15 speakers. Okay.
Okay.
This is Michael, and he's my fourth child, and he was 5 years after Joan died. I had a miscarriage, and then he was born 7 years later. And he had, when I brought him home from the hospital, was April 19th, the day that Joan died. So what do you think of that? So here you go, Michael.
All right. Okay, thank you, Mom. I'd like to thank everyone for coming and welcome you to the 40th anniversary Joan's Joy Vigil. I guess everybody by now has seen our wonderful table displays about the history and some pictures, and now I'd like to ask all the people that will be speaking tonight to come up and take their seats, please. And we're going to have 15 speakers tonight, each one for 3 minutes. And they're coming up now to take their seats, and we're going to, I've lit the 40 candles on the table. I don't know if you can see. And we have a candle lit. There's someone with the lighter, so if everybody has their candles, you can light them at any time. And I'd like to just give some thank yous while everybody's walking up. Take their seats. Okay. Very good. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'd like to first just thank the mayor and council of Hillsdale. I'd like to thank Bishop Doyle. He's here to give a little bit of a prayer. I'd like to thank all our speakers for coming, our special guests. Any invited special guests, we have a second row of chairs here if you'd like to come up and sit. Later there'll be a caravan of police vehicles, and I'd like to thank all of them for their time in doing that, and everyone here tonight, and all the Hillsdale community as well. So the 15 speakers will tell the story. Each speaker is from a different part of the story that happened over the 40 years, so you'll see it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. And my mom will be last. That'll be the last speaker probably about an hour from now. And with that, I would like to introduce the mayor of Hillsdale, Max Arnowitz.
First, I want to say thank you to everyone that's come out for this. I moved to Hillsdale 40 years ago, right after this horrid event. And as an emergency service person and listening to the small commentary that firemen make about this, because when firemen talk about fires, even when there was tragedy, they would expound on it. This is one event they didn't. It was so horrifying for them, and it was such a horrible event and so trying on them. And I always say, and when I wrote to the parole board and I went to the various politicians to try and keep this animal in jail, I said, what if? And my what if is if this young lady had lived, if this wonderful little girl had not been taken away from us, maybe she would be the mayor today and I wouldn't be here. Maybe she would be the scientist that found the cure for cancer. Maybe she would be the doctor that's going to take care of me when I'm old. But she's not here because some animal had to take her away from us. There's only one small but big positive thing that came out of all of this, and that's Joan's Law, that hopefully, possibly some animal that might think of doing this to another child will say, I don't want to spend the rest of my life in jail, so I'm not going to do it. But we'll never know that, and we'll never know what Joan could have done because someone was uncaring and had a mind of an animal. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're just going to wait for 1 minute while the train passes.
You don't like a train?
I'd just like to check, can everyone towards the back here okay? No? Yes? It's all the way up, I'm sorry if not. Okay. I'd like to now introduce Bishop Thomas Donato, pastor of St. Henry's in Bayonne and regional bishop of Hudson County for our invocation.
Let us begin by calling upon our loving God. Dear God of life and God of love, you have given us the special gifts of life and love, and so as we gather this evening, our hearts continue to be burdened by the loss of a life of Joan D'Alessandro 40 years ago. We continue to call upon your tenderness to lighten our burden. In your Son, Jesus, you remind us, suffer the little children to come to me. 40 years ago, we surrendered little Joan into your tender and loving hands. Our consolation is founded in the new life that she now experiences. Our challenge this evening is to carry on the legacy that she shared with us in the simplicity of life, the radiance of a smile, the gentleness of her joy for each of us. May her name be written on our hearts so that we might find the peace only that you can give us. Bless us and inspire us with your holy wisdom. May our desire to see and affirm what is good and holy ever increase within us. Grant us the faith to trust that you walk the walk of life with each of us, and that we may always find comfort in your loving embrace. Amen. I'm a white-haired man, and I lived in the town of Hillsdale for 7 years, from 1965 until 1973. I was the parish priest here at St. John the Baptist, and little Joan was a little girl who went through our parochial school and a Girl Scout. Joan was about to receive what we as Catholic Christians know to be her Eucharist for the first time in the month of May. But she found herself in that month of May joining around the table of the Lord in heaven. Our hearts were truly saddened, but the beauty that I can recall was that not only did the parish community, but the entire Hillsdale community came together in those days. We found ourselves giving strength and courage to each other so that we could find her. We know the sadness that once we did, she was dead. So as I prayed, there is a legacy that she has begun. Let us hope that it continues here in Hillsdale in the wonderful idea of scouting, and for the young girls and young boys that they may always be safe, and that we as the adults within the communities may continue to find the ways of creating an environment of safety for these our children. Thank you.
I'd like to now introduce Penny Sullivan. She's the president of the Ramapo Rescue Dog Association, and is over there. Okay, that's fine. And she does not have her dog tonight, but she'll tell you her story about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I do have my dog, but she's being quiet in the car behind me. I don't know why, but I often tend to think of my life as a series of circles, always connected and connecting various people, places, and times. Our Ramapo Rescue Dog Association was formed in 1971, 2 years before 1973 and Joan's disappearance. But at that time, people really didn't know about the use of dogs to locate missing people, and in fact, many people doubted that they could do that. So actually, the search for Joan was our unit's first actual search. And I do recall that I worked with my first search dog that night. We were called out through Rivervale Police Department, who was and still is actually our 24-hour emergency coordinator. They called us for that search. And I remember I and my dog Brian were asked to search a wooded area across a stream from where the school buses were parked. And I believe we were asked to search that because they had found a box of Girl Scout cookies either in the bus or alongside the bus. But all of the people in our unit really desperately were hoping to be able to locate Joan and bring her home. The second part of my circle, though, also involves our unit and the fact that we had just recently been given permission to train in Harriman State Park. Now, where we trained was less than a mile, actually, where Joan was eventually located. And although our dogs did not find her, of course, I have no doubt that had we continued to search, we would have been able to locate her. And on a personal note, the third part of my circle was that when Joan was found, the park police and the rangers, of course, were on scene, and the chief park ranger, who I didn't know at the time, went on to get interested in the use of the dogs and, in fact, ended up being my husband. So it's a very connected feeling I've always had with Joan. But the important thing is that we continue to do everything we possibly can to keep our children safe and to allow them to have a wonderful, safe, happy childhood. And for that, I don't think we can thank anyone more than Rosemary. Thank you so much, Rosemary.
Thank you, Penny. I'd now like to introduce Michael Smith. He's been a Hillsdale resident for 48 years, and he's twice been the exalted ruler of the Elks in Westwood, which is the next town. Thank you, Michael.
Good evening. Tonight I'm here as a longtime resident of Hillsdale, having been approached to speak on this event, though 40 years ago. Seems like yesterday. In a small town, news both good and bad travels fast. When Joan was reported missing, volunteers were gathered to search for her. As a young parent with a child of my own, I didn't hesitate to become involved. Despite hours spent, we have unable to find her. I need not detail what happened. We lost an innocent little girl in a tragic way. At the time, and even now, it seemed so unreal that we could have someone in our community capable of this type of crime. Through the years, Joan's memory has been kept alive by the family. Legal steps to ensure imprisonment of the perpetrator. A memorial at St. John's, a foundation created in her name, and events like tonight. Let us say a prayer in Joan's name, asking